Good morning, St. Croix. How are you? Good. I'm so glad to be here this morning in front of the St. Croix Chamber of Commerce to present let's call it my second report to the St. Croix Chamber. But when I was here a year ago, we talked right off of the state of the territory. We talked about what our understanding was the condition of how we received the government of the Virgin Islands, and our perception of the condition of the economy, and what we believed were the necessary first steps to go forward. A year ago, we talked about a government, a public sector, with insignificant financial distress. We were off of the heels of the uncertainty of the future site at the former Hovensa location and what the resolutions to those issues were. We faced a government that owed tremendous amount of money to its taxpayers, its vendors, and its employees. We had tremendous uncertainty with respect to employment in the private sector, investment in the economy by the private sector, the federal government's relationship with the government of the Virgin Islands and its plans and announcements to close many of the federal programs and take them over themselves, restrict and continue to hold federal dollars that were slated for reimbursements for many of the federal programs for which general fund monies have been slated or used to pay for, consider decrees within the Bureau of Corrections and the Virgin Islands Police Department, and the Virgin Islands Police Department literally facing federal receivership, high crime, a number of limited boots on the ground with respect to law enforcement and security, and a great uncertainty on the future of tourism here on the Big Island. Before you this morning, I stand pleased to report to you that things in the Virgin Islands and conditions in the Virgin Islands and conditions of the government of the Virgin Islands and the outlook and conditions, particularly for the island of St. Croix, are tremendously better. The litigation claims between the government of the Virgin Islands, Hess and PDVSA, valued at about $368 million between all of us, resolved. The outstanding obligations to the government of the Virgin Islands for payments for the contamination of some $40 million, resolved. The government of the Virgin Islands have been able to capture a settlement valued in excess of $800 million over that site. While the minimum level of employment at that site is 80, we are soon approaching the hiring of 200 persons at that facility to get it ready for storage and transshipment. And there are other activities that are going to take place there that are not yet available for a public announcement. As you know, the government received 121 of the homes as part of its settlement. And to date, we have already been able to lease out or rent out 80 of those homes for 2 years for $2.7 million, including insurance for the properties and security and maintenance. And we look forward with our partners at ArcLight to get the storage facility up and running so that the ISOs that continue to come to the island and the high price of fuel in the economy can be abated. This will also lead to our conversations in terms of our efforts to renew the Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority and to literally reimpose a complete new generation infrastructure and move our power generation further on fossil fuels. We're going to do this in tandem with the U.S. Department of Energy. You will see production of electricity on the South Shore, and you will see, more importantly, your power bills continuing to fall. We do remain concerned about the Water and Power Authority's conversion program on propane, which is now twice its budget and going in its 4th year of delay. On St. Croix, the tanks have failed, but we are not yet burning propane. This concerns us, but we can move Beyond that, we will be able to fix that, and we will be able to have a new power generation system where you will see the implementation of wind generation production of electricity into the grid. The potential for St. Croix to grow and to become a powerful location as a tourism destination in the Caribbean is not only enhanced by the growing and expanding U.S. economy, but by concerns of Americans visiting and traveling abroad on foreign soil. Now is the time for us to seize upon those opportunities and to ensure that the infrastructure is in place to be able to move forward. Our Commissioner of Tourism is working diligently to ensure that we expand the airlift capacity to the island of St. Croix. And without any pre-announcements, I will only say to you that we expect to be able to soon come to the people of the Virgin Islands and inaugurate a New York to St. Croix, New York flight. We believe tremendously, and many of you here are experiencing a very significant uptick in the visitors in this season on St. Croix, and that's only going to get better. You look at St. Croix, without branded hotels, when that large segment of traveler gets ready to go on vacation or luxury or leisure trips, if they decide I want to come to St. Croix, they've got to make their mind up. They may get their flights on their miles, but they're going to have to pay for their hotels. And some people, and as our season is reflecting, many people do that, and we encourage that. But there's an entire segment of traveler that will not make the decision to come simply because they're not prepared to pay for the hostel stays because they have access to that branded facility anywhere that it exists. And so in order to bring St. Croix into that fold, we need to begin the process of driving branded hotel facilities on the island. Bed and breakfast facilities have its niche in the market. But what we're looking for is mass. St. Croix, we need to think about the development and the expansion of St. Croix in terms of a mass process of traveler and exposure to the island. In tandem with this process, we have created a transaction team of members from the public and the private sector to work this process through. I do not have all of the answers, and we look to the transaction team to assist us with HVS to come up with the answers that will work for St. Croix. As we work with our airline partners, the question remains, you need rooms on St. Croix. Even if we do, as we are doing in some instances, doing flight guarantees for a number of seats to ensure the airlift capacity, the bottom line becomes you need the hotel facilities, and you won't have to put dollars on the table warranting seats because people need places to stay. We are talking about sports tourism as part of our development and expansion for the island's economy. And we are talking about moving horse racing to a very high caliber, changing the authority under the Racing Commission, banning drugs and doping of horses at races, having a private partner invest at least $20 million in the horse racing facility on St. Croix, and another $8 to $9 million on a facility in St. Thomas, so that we can attract racing to this island. Racing brings a lot of people with the horses. The Frederickstead Sports Center, which is about a $20 million investment that the government of the Virgin Islands have been behind since the time of Senator Edgar Isles being in office. It originally was one of his bills, and Senator Lucy Richards took that up. Is now ready to be financed. It has had CBDG grant monies. We're going to put that in our capital budget. We're going to fund that, and we're actually going to start proposing to the legislature that that facility be moved in the area of the University of the Virgin Islands and the educational complex for the Synergy. This allows us to start looking at dual hosting of games by Paradise Jam and expanding that facility for the attraction of guests here on the islands as well. I was here a year ago, and I talked about the Paulie Joseph Stadium. We had suspended that contract. We were able to renegotiate that contract with the GEC Corporation to a fixed price construction, and we have made some decisions on what will happen there. We're going to add another $15 million to the project site, and this morning I will unveil to you what the approved project is and talk a little bit about the timeline for construction. We will acquire some of the property in the area for the expansion of the facility, but again, this project will take on the entire town of Frederiksted. We're not going to build. The original work of building a stadium on St. Croix was not about building a stadium. It was about the revitalization of the town of Frederiksted, and this project will work not only its way in the project site, but you will see improvements to the town of the Frederiksted all the way up to the entrance of Frederiksted. This is the project layout. The main stadium being the Paulie Joseph Stadium, the Terrence Martin softball field, the permanence of the Festival Village. This would be the going in front of the Fort Frederick Beach. The amphitheater. This channel that you see here is part of the flood mitigation plan that the Army Corps of Engineers had put together for the flood problems in LaGrange. If we do not take care of the flood mitigation, building this site will be a complete throwaway of the money, because in our 10, 25, and 50-year range, it'll all disappear. So in order to not send water into the town and to be able to handle all of the water that comes out of the hills, we are going to put this channel in, which has an aesthetic value, but its main purpose is to ensure that the water, when it comes down, gets out to the ocean and not be able to flood the town. In this area, we are going to acquire some additional lands here, which allow us to build tennis, basketball, and soccer fields. We're going to expand the footprint, move the road a bit over to the north, which will allow us purchase these areas, which will allow us then to have adequate parking. There's the ability for a hotel site, a moderate hotel site at the facility here. We're going to enhance this beach, clean it up, and put the berms for its protection, because this is a very important element for the cruise industry when the passengers disembark the vessel and want some sea recreation. This beach is used, and part of what we want to do here is to ensure that we make sure it's clean for our residents, but also for our visitors. So this is the plan layout, and digital copies of this is available for the media. You will get them as well on email today. And we've already directed the Commissioner of Property Procurement to start talking to the owners of these properties for their acquisition, and we are sending legislation for the authorization to buy them, and will fund another $15 million for this expansion. This, you're only seeing a part of it, the path of charm that goes all the way up to the entrance of Frederiksted, cleaning up the entrance of the town, enhancing it, and having this. This construction will begin the development of the project. In terms of construction, drawings have in fact begun, and the next phase is to now acquire the additional lands, and the owners are saying the lands are available. At least some of the owners are willing to sell them, and we will continue to speak with the others to make sure it's done, but this project will begin this year. Could you bring... This is an inside view of the stadium, so that if you are on the playing field, this is what you will see. This capacity here is 1,800 persons with 2 berms that allow 500 additional seats on each side. When we originally talked about grading this stadium and putting up what the specifics targeting play should be, what it required was a very sophisticated playing field. And that was another $2 million that would have gone underground for a number of infrastructure issues regarding that class of stadium. We made a conscious decision to scrap that, and rather than put the $2 million, since we did that, then this field would only be able to be used for baseball. We could not allow concerts or anything else where anyone had to put anything into the ground, because it would destroy the $2 million infrastructure below it. So we really looked at the long-term value of the stadium and determined that where we're at in the island today, that the stadium isn't ready for that level of attraction often enough to put the $2 million into it and then say to folks, it's not available for use other than baseball. So we will have a professional graded feel, but it will allow itself to have concerts and other activities here as part, again, of the attraction of moving persons in and out of the island. This is the outside view of the stadium. And this is what will be constructed in Frederiksted. This is what we're actually doing the drawings on. And what we attempted to do here is the entrance to the stadium is, again, walking areas, but ensure that we bring the elements of the architecture of Frederiksted right into the stadium. We didn't want to have some new modern edifice sitting there on the corner and that it did not look like our towns. And what we did was, because of all of the work that's going to happen, and if I went back to the first slide, we are opening up the town and we're actually expanding the town and doing the flood mitigation. So we brought the elements here. This allowed for some level of real estate, retailer operations. Again, it allows all of the walking that goes to the parks of the amphitheater, the festival village, the softball field. On this side, you will have your tennis courts, soccer fields behind it. You will have the area for the basketball. It's 3 stories. It will have all of the infrastructure for media, entertainment, filming. So again, you can do concerts and make this really a very community-oriented facility for multi-uses. We wouldn't need to have the village there, but again, enhance the entire process. This will require us to make some significant improvements to the Fort Frederick fort. We're going to literally bring the fort up, clean it up, restore it, so that all of these areas, this area becomes a very vital segment for Frederiksted and for St. Croix. And I'm very honored to announce that, as you know, I've been talking about this a year ago, the NYPD has become the mentor department to the Virgin Islands Police Department, the New York Police Department. And our first 8 police officers between age 1, meaning their first year, they have to finish their probationary period, but cannot have more than 5 years on the job. Our first 8 police officers from the Virgin Islands will be attending the class at the NYPD beginning on April 16th of this year. We're going to be sending 16 officers every year who will spend the entire 6-month period training at the NYPD. The NYPD Academy not only trains its officers, which I'm told the class scheduled for April is about 800 recruits, but they not only train their officers, they train officers from other jurisdictions as well. I know one of the entities that train there regularly is the country of Jordan. And so we believe that not only the technology and the sophistication and the blaze trailing record and history of the New York Police Department, our officers will be exposed to a great diversity of people in law enforcement, different backgrounds, different cultures, a different science, an upgraded science of policing. And we're working to ensure that the infrastructure that they are going to be trained to become effective police officers are going to be implemented and available here in the Virgin Islands. The Virgin Islands Police Department will be launching its police cadet program in the high schools. We met on that this week for the 3rd time with the Commissioner of Education and the Police Commissioner. What we're going to do is create a corps similar to the ROTC, but our corps is going to be a bit different. We're going to give these young people a stipend and have them work on weekends and in the summer around our law enforcement facilities and to assist and have them uniformed and have them trained. But we're also going to do something else. The persons that are a part of our police cadet corps, we will give them their first 2 years an associate's degree of tuition at the University of the Virgin Islands, absolutely free, for 5 years of service in the VIPD upon graduation. So I thank you all very much for the opportunity and your kindness and your willingness to listen to what I had to say.